Welcome to our pre-pesach mini-mester. Just a couple of classes, and we've chosen an interesting topic. The original title was The Nature of Miracles and the Miracle of Nature. The authors changed it to The Miraculous Nature of Faith, which I like as well. This is part of the creativity of the school, that everybody has input, and that's a wonderful thing. Tonight we're going to begin with our understanding of the nature of miracles. Of course, Pesach is all about the miracles, the national miracles, miracles that affected millions of people and probably maybe billions, if we want to count all the people that read the Bible and had a positive impact from it. I'm sure billions of people have read the Bible. But we're going to first ask some questions about miracles to kind of get some footwork down. And of course, there are many different types of definitions of miracles and different ways to relate to them, different levels, different revelations. So we're going to do the best we can in the short time that we have. We're going to use a lot of material from Hasidut and from Rabbi Nachman. But the first thing we see everywhere, the definition of a miracle is to something that occurs that's above the laws of nature. But, the laws of nature, there are a lot of laws of nature. So when we talk about something above the laws of nature, we're not talking about necessarily, a mountain will turn upside down or a river will stop flowing like it did for Yeshua, or a wind will come and Moshe Rabbeinu will open up the Red Sea. Those obviously were an abrogation of nature, that the laws are suspended. Now, what does it mean to suspend the laws of nature? Does it mean that water no longer falls, air no longer floats, earth falls, fire rises? Does it mean that the lion lies down with the lamb? Does it mean that the Haman gets killed in the palace of the king, or gets prosecuted? I mean, there are many ways to look at the changes of the laws of nature. The one of the nicest definitions I've heard is that the hardest miracle is to change the nature of man. That a human being is the hardest creature in creation to change. And I think we can all attest to how hard it is to change. The Rebbe of Salon told us it's harder to change one bad trait than to learn all of Shas, meaning that you could sit down with all the books of Shas and learn 2,300 pages of Talmud with the commentaries and still not change a trait. Now, I find it hard to believe that a person is not going to be refined by that much learning and that much service. But nonetheless, I think the idea here is that our nature and the laws that govern nature, which there are many laws. We could look inside physics, we could look inside astronomy. There's many laws of nature that have been described, especially in our generation. But the basic idea of nature, of Teva, is the systematic repetition of a process. That nature demands that the moon flies around the earth flies around the sun, the rest of the members of the solar system also have their patterns. Now in Kabbalah they teach us that there are angels assigned to govern the flight patterns of planets. It sounds nice. An angel over Mars, an angel over Venus, an angel over Jupiter, the moon, the earth, the sun, etc. Science has no room for angels, and yet they have described magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields, and other various types of phenomenon that essentially seem to perform what we are told that the angels perform. So on one hand, we would say that the pathways of the planets follow the laws of nature, that there's gravity pulling by centrifugal force, is pulling away one object from another, gravity holds them together, and so the two objects spin. That's, of course, an oversimplification, but that process happens over and over. Just like the sun comes up every morning, goes down every night, we count on these things. We call these laws of nature. But what makes them nature, the idea in the modern nomenclature, is the implication that it's governed by physicality and there's no spirituality behind it. And that's a disservice that science, I believe, in the past 200 years has made to our faith in the Creator, is that we are trying to describe, science tries to describe a system without the miraculous, without the laws of nature being changeable. Okay, now what we're going to learn tonight, though, is that it's exactly the opposite, that the laws of nature are a fixed body of, so to speak, the discipline of matter and how matter engages each other and how processes compete and repeat themselves over and over. But all of that can be wiped out by one prayer. And we're gonna go inside the text in a moment and look at it further. But so that's the first thing we have to look at, is our definition of the laws of nature, because if you look at the laws themselves, we're going to see they're quite profound, and they do have their antecedents in Kabbalah. But without crossing that bridge, let's go further. Another idea about natures, we are told, is that they chiefly occur, the nature of miracles is that they occur chiefly in Eretz Yisrael, that Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be the land of miracles. Now, many miracles have happened here, obviously, up until our generation, and yet I'm sure that there are miracles have happened all over the world. So when we talk about Eretz Yisrael being the land of natures, the land of miracles, we're going to have to go into that deeper. Another idea about miracles is that they always shock people. They're astounding. They're not just everyday events. They're out of the ordinary, and they cause people to pay attention. Miracles are called an oath or a sign. Now, an oath also means a letter. So a letter, one of the 22 letters of the alphabet, is also called a sign. We know that Cain was given a tuft on his forehead to protect him from the wild animals after he had killed his brother Hevel. So when Cain killed Hevel, he needed protection from the animals. But the implication, of course, is that before he didn't. He was higher than the animals. Only when he came down to the level of murder did he lose his status as a man, and he came down to the level of an animal. Therefore, Hashem had to put the sign on his forehead. So that sign, of course, is not a sign of honor, but it's a sign of protection, to drive off the wild animals that might look at Cain as something to eat, right? But nonetheless, we see that this sign was also, the idea of Shabbat is called an oath, right? The tefillin is called an oath. These are all called signs. But of course, we're going to, because we're broad in the definition of sign, meaning also to mean a miracle, the signs that God gave us in Egypt, right? That miracles are called signs, and we can also include in the category by hekesh, by connection, that an oath, tefillin, and Shabbat are also an aspect of miracles. And Rabbi Nachman says that clearly also in one of his Torahs, that Shabbat itself is a period of time dedicated to being above time, right? It's the seventh day. It's where we enter above time. And above time, of course, is also an abrogation of certain laws of nature. The reason I believe that the ancients could live so long was because they spent most of their time above time. They spent most of their time in meditation and Dveikut with Hashem. And when you're in that state of attachment to the life force that never ends, then you become part of that life force and you don't age the same way. So the real secret of aging, the secret of the fountain of youth, is to be attached to Hashem. Because he's ageless, he's the oldest and he's the youngest at the same time. He's constantly renewing creation, and yet he's been around forever and will always be. So this is a paradigm of a goal that we're trying to reach, of being young and old at the same time. Old in wisdom, but young in perception, in clarity.